Think about the last time you tried to set a boundary with someone. Maybe you said no to a request. Maybe you asked for space. Maybe you tried to end a conversation that wasn't going anywhere. And instead of accepting it, they collapsed. They cried. They said you were abandoning them. They reminded you of everything they've been through. And suddenly your boundary wasn't the topic anymore. Your cruelty was. Here is what nobody tells you about that moment. What just happened was not an emotional reaction. It was a move. A calculated, practiced, highly effective move. And it has a name. Emotional blackmail. The reason emotional blackmail is so difficult to recognize is that it always arrives wearing the clothes of something legitimate. Grief, vulnerability, love, fear. The person doing it is not necessarily lying about their feelings. They may genuinely feel hurt. They may genuinely be struggling. But here is the distinction that changes everything, and it is the distinction most people never make. There is a difference between someone who is hurting and someone who uses their hurt to control you. A person who is genuinely struggling wants support. They say, "I'm having a hard time. Can we talk?" A person using emotional blackmail wants compliance. They say, directly or indirectly, "If you do that, something bad is going to happen to me, and it will be your fault." The signs of emotional blackmail are almost always the same. Your needs disappear the moment there's a peer. Every attempt you make to assert yourself is met with escalating distress. The conversation always ends with you apologizing, even when you did nothing wrong. And the guilt you feel is so overwhelming that you start preemptively avoiding the situations that trigger it. You stop setting boundaries not because you don't want to, but because the cost has become too high. Emotional blackmail operates through a very specific cycle. And once you see the cycle, you will recognize it everywhere. It starts with a demand, sometimes explicit, "I need you to do this." Sometimes implicit, a withdrawal of warmth, a pointed silence, a look that communicates disappointment. Then comes the pressure. If you don't immediately comply, the pressure escalates. Tears, threats, reminders of past sacrifices, comparisons to how other people treat them. The emotional temperature rises until compliance feels like the only way to make it stop. Then comes the guilt. Whether you comply or not, you feel guilty. If you comply, you feel guilty for not doing it sooner, for not doing it more willingly. If you don't comply, you feel guilty for causing their distress. The guilt is the engine, is what keeps the cycle running. And here is what makes emotional blackmail so effective in the long term. It trains you. Every time the cycle completes, every time your boundary triggers their distress and your guilt makes you back down, you are being trained. Your nervous system learns, asserting myself causes pain. Staying quiet keeps the peace. Over time, you stop needing to be pressured at all. You have already internalized the boundaries they want you to have. You police yourself. This is why so many people in toxic relationships don't even realize what's happening. They think they've simply become a more considerate person. What they've actually become is someone who has been trained out of their own needs. The people most vulnerable to this are not weak people. They are empathetic people. People who genuinely care about the well-being of others and feel real distress when they cause pain, even pain they did not cause and are not responsible for. So how do you actually deal with emotional blackmail? The first and most important thing to understand is this. You cannot reason your way out of it in the moment. When someone is in the middle of an emotional blackmail episode, crying, escalating, making you feel responsible for their state, your logical mind is not the right tool. Because the tool being used against you is not logic. It is guilt. And guilt bypasses logic entirely. The move that actually works is this. You pause the conversation without abandoning your position. You say something like, "I can see you're really upset right now. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm also not changing my answer. Let's talk about this when we're both calmer." That's it. No argument. No justification. No apology for your boundary. You are acknowledging their emotion without accepting responsibility for it. This is the key distinction. You can care about someone's pain without being responsible for causing it, and without being responsible for fixing it at the cost of your own needs. The second thing that breaks the cycle is consistency. Emotional blackmail works because it has been reliably effective. The moment you become reliably unreliable, the moment the other person starts to understand that their distress will no longer change your answer, the incentive to escalate disappears. This does not happen overnight. The behavior often gets worse before it gets better as they test whether you're serious. But a clear, calm, repeated pattern of holding your position is what ultimately dismantles the cycle. Here are 3 things you can start using today. Step 1. Learn to separate their emotion from your responsibility. When someone becomes distressed in response to your boundary, pause and ask yourself one question. Did I cause this, or did my boundary reveal something that was already there? There is a fundamental difference between hurting someone and triggering their reaction to not getting what they want. You are responsible for how you treat people. You're not responsible for how they feel about not controlling you. Step 2. Name what is happening to yourself, not to them. You don't need to accuse anyone of emotional blackmail, but internally naming the pattern gives you back your clarity. This is emotional blackmail. This is the cycle. My guilt is being activated deliberately. Naming it breaks its automatic power over you. Step 3. Hold the boundary without holding a speech. The longer you explain and justify your boundary, the more material you give them to argue with. A boundary does not require a defense. I understand you're upset. My answer is still no. Repeat as needed. Not with anger. Not with guilt. Just with calm, steady clarity. The repetition itself communicates something no argument ever could. That you are serious and that this particular lever no longer works. Here is what I want you to take away from this. Feeling guilt when you set a boundary does not mean your boundary is wrong. It may simply mean that someone has spent a long time teaching you that your needs are negotiable and theirs are not. That lesson was never yours to learn, and it is never too late to stop applying it. If this video described a relationship in your life, you already know what to do. The question is whether you're ready to do it without waiting for their permission. Subscribe if you want more of this. There's a lot more coming.